Okay, so in our last video we looked at how we can scale up the overcloud, and in this video we're going to take a look at how we can scale down the overcloud. So we can see that the node we added last time is down the bottom here, so overcloud and overcompute 0, and we want to remove that. So to remove it, we follow a similar process where we edit our overcloud deploy YAML file, which is what we used when we did the provisioning of that node. And we just want to change those counts. We want to add a parameter called provisioned false. So this is the documentation we want to follow here. It's under the bare metal provision document and the scaling down section. So we'll make our way through these steps and we'll remove this node from the overcloud, and then at the end we'll do a recap of why we did the things we did and take a look at how it worked. So the first thing we want to do is we want to edit this file. So this is the same one we added the node to last time when we had provisioned it in overt. So overcloud bare metal deploy.yaml. So we're going to change this to 0. I'm going to remove all the nodes. I want to unprovision even the extra one I added. So this is the one we'll remove from the overcloud, and we'll unprovision this one. So once we've saved that and we've set the provisioned to false, we just want to run openstack overcloud node delete. We'll tell it which stack we're going to delete the node from, and then we're going to pass it that file. So we want to make sure we have our stack.rc file first. We want to make sure that we can see the overcloud stack. And at this point, we also want to make a backup. So we want to add that change that we just made to Git. We want to take a backup of our undercloud of the database before we go making any changes, so that if anything does go wrong, we have a point that we can restore to. So I've already made my backup. So what we're going to do is we're going to do openstack overcloud node delete. I'm going to pass it the stack, and in my case the stack name is overcloud, which we can see here. Do bare metal deployment, and we're going to pass it that file, overcloud bare metal deploy.yaml. Okay, so we'll let that run for a minute and then we will come back and see how it went. Okay, so the first thing that happens here is we get presented with a list of the nodes that we're going to be removing from our overcloud. So in this case, overcloud and overcompute 0 and compute 1. Now compute 1 doesn't exist, so we're going to see whether that causes a problem. So we respond with Y and we say, yep, we're 100%, we want to proceed with that. Now we do run into a bit of a problem down here, and this is a bug that is currently open that I'll link below. So when it runs the scaling role, it fails to get the SSL certificate that we have for our overcloud. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to get the compute service ID for those nodes. So if we go back to 4, we can see that this is the ID for the compute service for the Dell compute, and this is the one it's trying to get here. Now it can't do that because it doesn't trust the SSL certificate for my overcloud. So we can run this manually. So this is going to be a playbook that is in config download overcloud. And if we have a look at our Ansible playbook command, yeah, so we can see here that it's actually running that scale playbook as part of our now saved Ansible playbook command bash script. So what we can do is we're going to do a bit of debugging here. We need to find out why it's not taking into consideration the overcloud SSL certificate. So let's just have a look at this playbook. Okay, so we might be including, yeah, so we're including scale steps YAML. So that's the playbook we need to look at here. Okay, so in here, so this looks like what we're trying to do. So get the compute service ID. Okay, so it's running OpenStack compute service list, service Nova compute column ID, host format. So let's just run that ourselves manually and make sure that works. So we'll go to this tab. Sorry, we missed something. Column. Okay, make sure that works. Okay, so it does work from here. So we know that that command works fine. So there must be something wrong with the environment variables that are passed to this block. So let's go back to the previous playbook. Okay, so when we include that, okay, we don't have any parameters there. What about back in here? CA. So we are passing it a CA cert, but that's actually the one for the undercloud. Okay, so in our scale steps playbook, so this is where we fail. So notice we're in a block here. This is where we fail. And if we look down the very bottom, we've got some environment variables here. Okay, so we have some environment variables down the bottom here, and we can see this is all the stuff that matches our overcloud. So let's just try and add OS CA cert, and we'll point it to the location of our certificate. So if you watched my video on updating SSL certificates, you will remember the part where we updated the trust anchors. So that's the location that that certificate was copied to in that video. So now we've provided this as an environment variable there. Let's just go and run the Ansible playbook command.sh. So when we're using config download, which is how we deploy the overcloud in TripleO, it's putting all the Ansible playbook commands into this bash script. So if we need to run something manually after we've run the overcloud deployment, we can do it with this script. So let's just take another look at that. So in here, it exports a whole bunch of environment variables, and maybe I can try exporting the OSCA cert here as well. But I actually already have that for the undercloud, so I don't want to interfere with anything that the undercloud is requiring here. And then down the bottom, you can see here it writes the output of the Ansible playbook command. Oh, sorry, it writes the Ansible playbook command. So we're running Ansible playbook, we're including the TripleO Ansible inventory.yaml file, and we're limiting it to these two nodes. Now remember that one of these nodes doesn't exist, so this still might fail and we might need to change stuff. We're going to skip the validation, and then at the end it's given us a $@ which means we can append any number of arguments, and it's just going to append those arguments. So what I mean by that is I can run bash ansible playbook command and then put -v, for example, to get verbose output, or vvv to get connection debugging output. We'll just put -v for now, and we're just going to run that, and we're going to see if our OSCA cert environment variable has made a difference to that play when it gets to it. It happens pretty quick, so I might not pause. So it should happen just here. We can see that it's already up to that task. Okay, so it still failed. So why has it failed? Cannot find suitable TLS CA certificate bundle. Invalid path. Okay, so this is progress. Let's make sure that's actually a file. It's not a file. Oh. No. Ah, I used a dash for the new one instead of an underscore. So let's go back. So we'll edit this again and we'll change it to a dash. So now we know this file exists, and we'll just double check to make sure I haven't missed something else. Okay, that file does exist. So let's again rerun it. Let's see how we go this time. Okay, so it looks like that has worked now. So we can see here that it's managed to find the IDs. So that's great. So let's see if this completes successfully. Okay, it looks like it has. Cool. So let's go back to our other tab and we'll do OpenStack Compute Service List. Has it removed it from here? It has removed it from here. So now we have removed that node from our stack. So let's check. Okay, so we're going to do an OpenStack stack resource list, and the stack we want to check is our compute stack. So all I'm doing is I'm just nesting another stack resource show command in that one. We can go through them separately in a minute. So this will show all of the nodes that are under the compute stack. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to remove that node from our compute stack, but let's just spend some time and we'll just quickly touch on that command that I run. So we did OpenStack stack resource list and then OpenStack stack resource show overcloud compute. So what happens if we just run this command? So we'll do a little bit of a heat debugging video as well while we're going. So we have a resource for each of our roles. So compute Dell controller. So this is a resource group, and we can see we have a resource ID. And if I do OpenStack stack resource list on that ID, then what we'll get is the same output we saw before, where we see that one compute node. And we can keep going. I mean, this is a resource under that resource. So stack resource list. Okay, so these are all the resources that make up that compute node. So all we were doing before with that command was we were doing OpenStack stack resource list on the output of OpenStack stack resource show overcloud compute C physical resource ID F value. So exactly the same as what we did up there. I'm just putting it all in one command to make it easy. And I'll move that command to the top so it's above my picture. So now what we want to do is we want to remove that node from the stack. So we go into our templates directory, and we know that in here we're including this overcloud bare metal deployed.yaml. And in here we have a compute count of 1. So we're asking for 1 compute node to be in our stack. So I'm going to say we want 0. We don't want any compute nodes in our stack. And we can leave them there. It doesn't matter. We're decreasing the count. So it doesn't matter about the deployed server port map or the host name map. We can just leave that the same. And then what we'll do is we'll run a deploy, just a normal overcloud deployment at this stage, and at the end of it we should have removed that node from our stack. So this one will take a while, so we will let this one run. We'll come back at the end and we will see how it went. Okay, so we can see there that the stack is now in update complete. So let's go back to another tab. We'll use this one. So we'll sort of stack RC file again. We'll do OpenStack stack. You know what? Let's just do compute. So we'll do that same command again. OpenStack stack resource list, OpenStack stack resource show, overcloud compute, and we will see if it's still in our heat stack. So there we go. We can see that it's been removed from the heat stack. So, I mean, I didn't need to do a full deployment. I could have just done a stack only deployment. So if we look at, for example, my deploy script in the templates file, we can see here that I've got config download only. So I could do one with just stack only, which would just update the heat stack. I don't really need to run all of the Ansible playbooks, but I mean, whatever, it doesn't really worry me. I'm not afraid of an overcloud deploy. It's just going to apply the same config that already exists, so no big drama there at all. So we can see that the overcloud Nova Compute 0 has now been removed. So that's it. We've successfully scaled down that stack. And if we wanted to scale up, we just reverse that process exactly the same as we did before. Now, with regards to the OSCA cert, I've actually raised a bug for that, and I will work on fixing that and see if we can implement some kind of a neater fix to pick up on that overcloud CA cert. But that's basically it. That's all I wanted to cover. I just want to make a follow-up to the scaling up video and show the scaling down process instead. And I'm going to leave the debugging in there. I think it's important to show things when they don't work, and then the process of how we debugged that and figured out how to solve that problem. So I hope that's informative. I hope it's helpful. I hope the troubleshooting helps as well. And yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.